Hey, what's up YouTube? This is the Mermail Master coming at you guys from the Team Time Riders YouTube channel with another discussion video. And today's discussion video is going to be about Appointer of the Red Lotus. So Appointer of the Red Lotus has a very, very interesting effect. And I was very surprised to see this card even come into competitive lexicon, judging from how just so far off the walls it is. So its effect is basically pay 2,000 life points and reveal your entire hand. Then you can select one card from your opponent's hand, back of course when they still said select, and banish that card face down until your opponent's next end phase. So immediately on the surface of this card, it's a card that is completely just, has useless written all over it. But, if there's one thing that can be said, like, you're paying 2,000 life points to start. So, that's the price of Solemn Warning. It's a trap card, so you're going to have to set this card on your very first turn. You have to count on going first in order to be able to play this, and then draw this card, so it'll take up main deck space and side deck space. Then you have to reveal your entire hand, and then, only then, your opponent can reveal all the cards in their hand, and then you select the card, but it only gets banished until their next end phase, so if you don't take them out until then, you've effectively really done nothing. So, that was the sort of prevailing opinion of this card, and I actually, funny enough, I have a couple of these because I built a Billy deck one time out of all of the worst cards that I could find in this entire game, and Appointer of the Red Lotus was run at 3. The fact that this card is even in discussion, let alone was in many of the top ARG players' deck lists, I think is not only funny, but completely ironic. As Yusei said, there is no useless card. And I think, this is the best example of that. Seeing things, I compare this kind of similarly to Spell Chronicle and Power Sync Stone as like two cards that players just sort of teched in there that have some kind of like usage, but we're just so far out of the zone of like anyone's thought that like nobody even bothered to, none of these cards were even like reprinted at all, or nothing happened with them. And Appointer of the Red Lotus is much of the very, very same way. So after taking a look at the card and re-examining it in the context in which it was used, I think that I can see why people are running it for sure. I personally really don't know how I feel about it, but I definitely think, it's a card that's going to have a lot more staying power than something like Power Sync Stone or, other things. And, it might be the new Vanity's Emptiness in terms of a card that was pulled out of people's common piles and became a complete staple for several formats. And the reason that I say it is this, is yes, you pay 2,000 life points to activate. In Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, life points are largely really an issue. As long as you have one life point left, you can still play the game. So you're not trying to conserve your life points, you're not trying to do anything, you're just trying to wipe your opponent out before they get to you. And the next step in that card is revealing the entirety of your hand. Now, most Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks right now, you look at Zodiacs, you look at whatever, all of those decks function around searching. So, card economy and card knowledge, are very, very big parts of the game. So you figure if you have a Zodiac deck and you're searching a variety of different cards, and then you have spell or traps or whatever left, everything that is going to be in your hand from that point is something that you will have already searched. This is search power that did not exist back in the day when this card came out, which was in Stardust Overdrive. Search power did not exist to this level. And so I guess when you think about it in that context, that every single card you should theoretically have in your hand when you activate this card is something that you should have already searched and that your opponent already knows. So that's number 2, removing the second, massive, massive cost to this card. Third is getting past the idea that, third is what does the card get you? What does, as a player, if I activate this card on my very first turn, what can I expect to gain by doing so? And a lot of people have compared this card in a lot of ways to Trap Dust Shoot because of the utility that it offers. First of all, since you've revealed your hand, your opponent now must reveal their entire hand. And if this is before they've gone, they're going to have a lot of cards. As I mentioned, there's a lot of power cards and a lot of combo starters and a lot of other things. So it's not just random cards that, like in a GOAT format deck, for instance, it would be useless. It's not just random cards together and you just happen to draw what you need. A lot of things are your combo starters, your play starters, your searchers, your other things, and, things that'll search you the combo pieces that you need to get your plays started in the deck. And so revealing your opponent's entire hand to start with gives you exactly the kind of information that you're looking for. Not only do you get to preemptively figure out what their deck is, but to also be able to place a countermeasure in your back row to be able to deal with it. And as they say, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and so a lot of players are willing to pay a high price for that knowledge. And so being able to figure out what your opponent is playing and then what cards they have in their hand gives you the entirety of what their strategy might possibly be. As I said, competitive decks are largely boiled down to, maybe one or two or even just one strategy right now. So when you're seeing Appointer of the Red Lotus, you're not going to be amiss as to what your opponent's deck does, and you're not just ripping a random card out of it. Usually it's going to be in the very competitive circles, it'll be a True Draco, a Zoo, maybe an Infernoid or something of that. Getting rid of something that they really, really need, like a Barrage or something in their hand first turn, so they're forced to set a bunch of trap cards that what they are already. That's very, very powerful things. And the effect is the last effect to rip a card out of your opponent's hand and banish it face down until their next turn. As I mentioned with the example of Barrage, being able to rip that out of your opponent's hand and banish it till next turn is a very, very tough thing to get around, because a lot of players want to be able to activate things like that first turn. You're not going to open up multiple combo pieces in a single turn. You get one of those gone, you get a Rat Pier banished, the Diagram or whatever gets pulled out of your hand. That's maybe 2 turns, since it comes back at your opponent's next end phase. They can't really do anything with that card. And yes, they managed to get the card back at the end, but it really doesn't get them any benefit, because it rips a prime card out of their hand, which will severely diminish their ability to make combos, but it will also allow you to OTK your opponent if there's a chance. So in many ways, Appointer of the Red Lotus, though it has high costs, gives you the opportunity to see your opponent's entire hand and rip something out of it, exactly in the way that Trap Dust Shoot does. But unlike Trap Dust Shoot, however, this permanently banishes the card, so if they're only running 2 or 1 of that card, they can't just research the card and add it back to their hand. They have to wait until they can get it back. As of now, there's really nothing that has the ability to deal with face-down banished cards, which is kind of unfortunate, but, there's not really too much else to be said to that. But, it's a very largely, in this situation, yes, you only banish it until then, but the idea is that it's the unholy combination of disruption, but also, if you could say your opponent may just use this card on their next turn, but if you're effective enough at OTKing them, and you're effective enough at getting rid of their board and finishing them off, then that play is not really going to matter, because at the end of the day, it's really all up to your ability to OTK them. And if you know you have that play, and you know that you can stymie your opponent's play long enough to do that, having both that knowledge of exactly everything your opponent has to stop you, as well as being able to rip the strongest thing out of their hand so that they only start their first turn with 5 cards instead of 6 in the same vein that you have, and assuming you have like back row set, that a lot of players are willing to pay $2,000 to deal with that, because, you know, revealing your hand anyway when all of the cards in your hand are things that you searched and that your opponent knows can be very beneficial. So whoever thought of this idea, I think, was thinking very, very well, and they made a fantastic meta call in determining this card. As I said, I, for one, you know, ran this card in like shitty Billy decks and would never have used this card to its maximum potential in kind of a competitive sphere. But if you think about things that people do and the ways that the competitive decks play, you know, that like, you know, the kind of degeneracy that has made a fair card like Max C completely broken in this format and just ban worthy as it is, there's a lot of talk in circles that, you know, Appointer or the Red Lotus can add some much needed tempo break to the game. You know, if I get a Megalo or something pulled out of my hand while I have just Atlanteans and I'm playing Mermails, you know, that's troublesome for me. And I've built a lot of decks focusing on the OTK, and if you can't conduct the OTK that turn, you give your opponent the chance to conduct their OTK. And so, ultimately, I think we should see what Appointer of the Red Lotus does, but I personally think the card has a lot more staying power than something like Power Sink Stone or Spell Chronicle. You know, I think it might be akin to, you know, what we see with Vanity's Emptiness, though on a slightly smaller scale. At the end of the day, like, Appointer of the Red Lotus is still a 2,000 life point cost, and you have to reveal your entire hand in order to activate it. But the benefit that it gives you in both knowledge and being able to rip something out of your opponent's hand at a chance that they can't use it, make it a really, really good card to consider. Not caring about life points or not really, you know, doing that stuff. I mean, the only thing you have to worry about is hoping that you see the card first turn and, you know, setting sufficient side space to it. But I think a lot of players are willing to make the argument that it's largely worth it. So guys, tell me what you think of Appointer of the Red Lotus in the comment section below. Do you think it's a going to be the new next competitive staple? You know, especially while Zoo and True Draco and other decks that search a lot are still around? Or do you think that it's largely going to go the way of things like Power Sink Stone and Spell Chronicle that had their small amount of time in the sun and were expensive for a little while, but eventually dropped off and didn't become anything more than a passing fad? So let me know in the comment section below, and as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on the video. And if you guys want to see more discussion videos just like this one, just let me know in the comment section below. I'll be more than happy to take any requests that you guys have for discussion videos. And, you know, yeah, but it's been really good doing this video. So this has been the Mermail Master, and I will catch you guys next time. So peace.